This story is about a Latin stepmother sexually assaulting her stepdaughter. This is purely a lesbian affair. Let's see how it unfolds. October 2019, a 17-year-old girl walks into a police station. Her hands were shaking. She's been carrying a secret for years. And when she finally speaks, her words will destroy everything her father thought he knew about the woman he married, the woman he trusted, the woman who was supposed to protect his daughter. But here's what makes this case different. 6 months before that police report, Denis Johnson, that's the stepdaughter, right? The 17-year-old who came to report. Denis Johnson posted a photo on Instagram. In that photo, she's smiling, standing next to her stepmother, Isabella Martinez. The caption read, "The only woman who truly understands me." You came to report, but 6 months before that report, you were praising the person you are reporting. Interesting. Both statements are real, both are documented, both are true. So what happened between March and October 2019? What changed? Or more importantly, what had been hiding in plain sight all along? This is not a story about strangers. This is not a story about a random act of violence on a dark street. This is a story about family, about trust, about the kind of betrayal that happens behind closed doors in a quiet suburban homes where neighbors waved at each other every morning and nobody suspects a thing. Denis Johnson was just 15 years old when Isabella Martinez became her stepmother. She had already lost her biological mother 3 years earlier. Cancer. It happened fast. Wow. May her soul rest in peace. Too fast for a 12-year-old girl to process. So when her father Marcus started dating again, Dennis didn't resist. She wanted normalcy. She wanted a family. She wanted someone to fill that empty space her mother had left behind. And for a while, it seemed like Isabella was exactly what they needed. She was warm, caring, present. She showed up to Dennis' school events. She cooked family dinners. She stayed up late talking with Dennis about boys, about school drama, about life. Things a mother would do. Things Dennis desperately needed. But something was wrong, and it would later take years before anyone noticed. Before we dive deeper, right? Tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Personally, I sincerely want to know how far this story travels, right? And if you are new here, right, subscribe. You'll be needing stories like this for educational and awareness purpose. Let's proceed. Now, let's start with what we know for certain. Not rumors, not speculation, just facts. Fact number 1. In June 2016, Isabella Martinez, 34 years old, married Marcus Johnson in a small ceremony in Austin, Texas. Denise was there. She was the maid of honor. Fact number 2. At the time of the marriage, Denise was 15 and living full-time with her father. Her biological mother had passed away in 2013 and Marcus had primary custody. Marcus is the father, of course. Fact number 3. Between 2017 and 2019, Dennis' school attendance dropped by 42%. She went from being an honor roll student to barely showing up. Teachers noticed, but when they asked, Dennis always had an excuse: headaches, stomach problems, family emergencies. Fact number 4. In March 2019, Denise started seeing the school counselor. She didn't say much at first, just that she was feeling overwhelmed, anxious, like something was pressing down on her chest and she couldn't breathe. The counselor documented every section. She noted that Denise seemed disconnected, like she was carrying something too heavy to put into words. Fact number 5. On October 14th, 2019, Denise gave a formal statement to the Austin Police Department. In that statement, she accused her stepmother, Isabella Martinez, of repeated sexual abuse over a 2-year period. Fact number 6. Within 48 hours, police opened a full investigation. They interviewed teachers, friends, family members. They pulled phone records, text messages, social media posts, WhatsApp chats, everything. Fact number 7, Isabella Martinez denied all allegations. She called them lies. She said Dennis was troubled, angry, manipulative. She said this was revenge for being disciplined, for having rules, for being treated like a child instead of an adult. These are the facts, 7 pieces of a puzzle. But facts alone don't tell you the whole story. Facts don't tell you why. They don't tell you how a family can smile in photos while something terrible is happening behind closed doors. They don't tell you how a victim can praise their abuser one day and report them the next day. To understand that, we need to go deeper. We need to understand who these people really were. Denis Johnson was born in 2002. She grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Houston. Her parents, Marcus and Helen, were high school sweethearts. By all accounts, it was a happy childhood. Soccer practice on Saturdays, family barbecues, movie nights, normal. Then, in 2013, everything changed. Helen, that's Dennis' mother, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months later, she was gone. Wow. May her soul rest in peace. Dennis was 12 years old. Child psychologists describe this as an attachment disruption. When a child loses a primary caregiver, especially a mother, their emotional foundation cracks. They don't just lose a person, they lose their sense of safety, their sense of predictability, their understanding of how the world works. Dennis struggled. Her grades dropped. She withdrew from friends. She stopped playing soccer. Wow. Marcus tried his best. He took time off work. He went to every school event. He cooked her favorite meals. But he was grieving too. And grief is a heavy thing to carry alone. For 3 years, it was just the two of them, father and daughter, trying to rebuild, trying to find normalcy again. Then, in early 2016, Marcus met Isabella. She was a healthcare assistant at the hospital where Marcus worked as an IT specialist. They started talking during lunch breaks. She was easy to talk to, warm, understanding. She didn't push, she just listened. And slowly, Marcus started to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could be a family again. When Marcus introduced Isabella to Dennis, he was nervous. He didn't know how his daughter would react. But Dennis surprised him. She didn't pull away. She didn't retreat into her room and slam the door. Instead, she smiled. She asked Isabella questions about her job, her hobbies, her favorite movies. It felt easy, natural, like this was what they had been missing. By the time Marcus proposed to Isabella in April 2016, Dennis had already started calling her by her first name. Not Mom, not Mrs. Martinez either. Just Isabella. A sign of familiarity, of trust. At the wedding, Dennis gave a speech. She said Isabella made her father happy. She said she was grateful. She said she felt like they were becoming a real family again. And she meant it because at that moment, she believed it. She had no idea what was coming. Isabella Martinez was born in 1982 in Austin, Texas. She grew up in a working-class family. Her father was a mechanic. Her mother worked at a grocery store. She was the middle child of 5, quiet, responsible, the kind of kid teachers liked. She graduated high school with decent grades and went straight into healthcare training. No college, just certification courses. She became a healthcare assistant and spent most of her 20s working in nursing homes and hospitals. People who knew her described her as dependable, someone who showed up on time, someone who followed instructions, someone who didn't cause problems. But there was something else, something harder to define. Isabella formed attachments quickly, intense attachments. In her 20s, she had several relationships that started fast and ended badly. Friends noticed a pattern. Isabella would meet someone, and within weeks, she would be completely invested, talking about moving in together, planning futures, making promises. And when those relationships ended, she would spiral. She would call in sick to work, she would stop answering her phone, she would disappear for days. Then she would come back, reset, and the cycle would start again. Psychologists call this accelerated intimacy formation. It happens when someone craves connection so intensely that they skip the normal stages of relationship building. They go from stranger to soulmate in a matter of weeks. Sometimes it's harmless, just someone who loves deeply and quickly. But sometimes it's a warning sign, a sign that boundaries are not being respected, that emotional dependency is being weaponized, that control is being disguised as care. By the time Isabella met Marcus in 2016, she was 34. She had never been married, no kids. She told Marcus she had always wanted a family, that she had been waiting for the right person, the right situation. And when she met Denis, she saw an opportunity not to be a mother exactly, but to be something else, something more, a confidant, a protector, a person who understood. At first, it seemed perfect. Marcus was relieved, Denis was happy, Isabella was attentive, but slowly, very slowly, something shifted. And by the time everyone realized what was happening, it was already too late. Wow. Let's reconstruct what happened month by month, piece by piece. Summer 2016, the wedding happens. Isabella moves into Marcus' house. Dennis gets a new room, freshly painted, new furniture. Isabella insists on helping her decorate. They spend hours picking out colors, arranging posters, choosing bedding. It feels like bonding, like mother-daughter time. Marcus was relieved. He had been worried about how Denise would adjust, but she seems happier, lighter. For 2016, Dennis starts her sophomore year of high school. Isabella packs her lunch, drives her to school, picks her up. They start a routine. After school, they sit in the kitchen. Isabella asks about Dennis' day, about her classes, her friends, her crushes. And Dennis talks. For the first time since her mother died, she talks. She tells Isabella things she doesn't tell her father, about feeling lonely, about missing her mom, about not knowing how to fit in anymore. Isabella listens. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't give advice. She just listens. And Denise feels seen, understood, safe. Winter 2016, Marcus starts working night shift. The hospital is short-staffed and they needed someone to cover IT support overnight. Marcus volunteers. The extra pay will help. And besides, Isabella is home. Denise isn't alone. This is when the boundaries start to blur. At first, it's small things. Isabella suggests they watch a movie together after Marcus leaves for work. Just the two of them. They stay up late, talking, laughing, sharing secrets. Then Isabella started coming into Denise's room at night to check on her, she says, to make sure she's okay, to see if she needs anything. Denise doesn't think much of it. It feels like care, like concern, like what a mother would do. But it's not what a mother would do. It's what a predator does. Testing boundaries, normalizing invasion, creating dependency. By spring 2017, Isabella is spending more time with Denise than Marcus is. She knows Denise's schedule better than he does. She knows her moods, her triggers, her fears, and she uses that knowledge not to protect Denise, but to control her. Spring 2017, Denise's behavior starts to change. Subtle at first, she stops responding to texts from friends. She declines invitations to hang out. When people ask why, she shrugs, says she's tired, says she has family stuff, says she just wants to stay home. Her grades slipped, not dramatically, but enough that teachers notice. She goes from A's to B's and C's. She stops participating in class. She sits in the back, head down, earbuds in, invisible. Her school counselor calls her in for check-ins, asks if everything is okay at home. Denise says yes. Everything is fine. Great. Actually, she likes her stepmom. Her dad is happy, everything is normal. But the counselor makes a note because something in Denis's voice doesn't match her words. Something feels off. Summer 2017, Marcus noticed that Denis is spending a lot of time alone with Isabella. Movie nights, shopping trips, late night conversation in the kitchen. He is glad they are close. He think it's healthy. He thinks Denis finally has a mother figure again. He has no idea what's really happening because what's really happening doesn't happen in public. It happens when he's at work, when the house is quiet, when there are no witnesses. Isabella begins to isolate Denis emotionally. She tells Denis that other people don't understand her, that her friends are immature, that her father is too busy to notice her. But Isabella notices. Isabella cares. Isabella is the only one who truly. Okay, come again. That her friends are immature, that her father is too busy to notice her. But Isabella cares. Isabella notices. Isabella is the only one who truly gets her. This is a classic manipulation tactic. Create dependency by convincing the victim that the abuser is there. Okay. Create dependency by convincing the victim that the abuser is their only source of support, their only safe person, their only ally. And it works. Denise pulls away from everyone else. She stops confiding in her friends. She stops asking her father to help with homework. She stops reaching out because Isabella has convinced her that she doesn't need anyone else. For 2017, the abuse escalates. It's no longer just boundary violations, no longer just inappropriate conversation. It becomes physical. And Denise freezes. She doesn't fight. She doesn't scream. She doesn't run. Because her brain has entered survival mode. Because she's confused. Because the person hurting her is also the person she trusts. The person who makes her father happy. The person who tells her she is special, loved, understood. Trauma does not always look like resistance. Sometimes it looks like compliance, like silence, like a child who smiles in family photos while dying inside. By winter 2017, Denise is barely recognizable. She's lost weight, her eyes are hollow, she flinches when people touch her, but nobody notices because nobody is looking. Because predators are good at hiding and victims are good at pretending. 2018, this is the year everything should have fallen apart, but it doesn't because Isabella is careful. She knows how to cover her tracks. She knows how to manipulate perception. She knows how to make sure Denise stays silent. The abuse continues regularly, methodically, always when Marcus is working at night, always when there are no witnesses, always in ways that leave no physical evidence. Investigators later call this access-based exploitation. The abuser doesn't use force, they use opportunity, privacy, authority, and emotional control. They rely on the victim's silence and they create conditions that make that silence inevitable. Denise's mental health deteriorates. She starts having panic attacks at school, at home, in the middle of the night. She doesn't understand what's happening to her. She doesn't have the language to describe it. She just knows that something is wrong, that her body is reacting to something her mind hasn't fully processed yet. She starts seeing the school counselor more regularly, not because she wants to talk about what's happening, but because the counselor is the only adult who seems to notice that she's struggling. The counselor asks careful questions. Are you safe at home? Is anyone hurting you? Do you need help? And every time Denise says no, everything is fine. Because she's not ready, because she's scared, because part of her still doesn't want to believe that this is really happening. March 2019, something shifts. Denise is scrolling through Instagram. She sees a post from a friend. It's about Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. It's about how abuse doesn't always look like violence, how it can come from people you trust, how it's not your fault. Denise reads it 3 times, then she screenshots it. She doesn't know why, she just does. A few days later, she posts that photo with Isabella, the one that says, the only woman who truly understands me. People assume it's genuine affection, but it's not. It's a test. Denise is trying to see if anyone will notice the disconnect, the contradiction, the lies she's believing in, but nobody does. And that's when Denise realized something. If she doesn't speak up, nobody will. If she doesn't save herself, nobody will save her. But speaking up is terrifying because speaking up means everything changes. Her father's marriage ends, the family falls apart, everyone will know, everyone will judge, everyone will ask questions she doesn't want to answer. So she waits, she builds up the courage, she writes things down, she deletes them, she writes them again, and slowly over the next 6 months, she prepares to do the hardest thing she's ever done. Wow. September 2019, Denise misses an entire week at school. When she comes back, the counselor pulls her aside. Denise, this is the third time this semester. Talk to me. What's going on? And for the first time, Denise doesn't lie. She doesn't say everything is fine. She doesn't make excuses. She just sits there, silent, tears streaming down her face. The counselor waits because sometimes silence speaks louder than words. After 10 minutes, Denise whispers something. I need help. That's all she says. But it's enough. The counselor follows protocols. She files a report with Child Protective Service. She documents the conversation. She doesn't push Denise for details. She just makes sure that someone is paying attention, someone is watching, someone is ready to act. October 14th, 2019, Denise walks into a police station. She's 17 now. Legally, she can make a statement without a parent present. And she does. She tells the detective everything: the timeline, the pattern, the escalation, the manipulation, the isolation, the abuse. The detective listens, takes notes, asks clarifying questions. And when Denise is done, the detective says something that changes everything. I believe you. Ooh. Those 3 words, after years of silence, after years of carrying this alone, after years of thinking nobody will believe her, someone does. The investigation moves quickly. Police interview teachers, friends, neighbors. They pull phone records. They analyze text messages. They look for patterns, and the patterns are there. Isabella's work schedule aligned perfectly with Marcus' night shift. She had opportunity, she had access, she had control. They interview Marcus. He is devastated, angry. In denial, he insists that Denise is lying, that Isabella will never do this, that something else must be going on. But the evidence doesn't lie. The timeline doesn't lie. The behavioral changes don't lie. When police confront Isabella, she does exactly what the detective expected. She denies everything. She calls Denise a liar. She says this is revenge. She says Denise is troubled, manipulative, ungrateful. She is using a tactic called DARVO. DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. It's common sense in these cases. The abuser flips the scripts, makes themselves the victim, makes the victim the villain. But this time, it doesn't work because the evidence is too strong. The pattern is too clear. The truth is too obvious. Isabella Martinez was arrested November 3rd, 2019. She was charged with multiple counts of sexual abuse of a minor. The family fell apart instantly. Marcus filed for divorce. He moved out of the house. He stopped speaking to Isabella, but he also struggled to speak to Denise because looking at her meant confronting the truth, confronting his failure to see what was happening, confronting the fact he had brought this person into their home, into their lives, into his daughter's life. Denise moved in with her aunt. She started trauma therapy, 3 sessions a week at first, then twice a week, then once. Recovery is not linear. Some days Denise felt strong, capable, like she was taking her life back. Other days she couldn't get out of bed, couldn't stop crying, couldn't silence the voice in her head that says it was her fault, that she should have said something sooner, that she let this happen. But therapy taught her something important. Taught her that trauma responses are survival mechanisms, that freezing is not consent, that silence is not permission, that children are never responsible for the actions of adults. Never. The case went to trial in 2021. Dennis testified. She sat in that courtroom and told her story out loud, in front of strangers, in front of a jury, in front of Isabella. And she didn't break. She didn't falter. She told the truth. Isabella's defense argued that Dennis was a troubled teen, that she had fabricated the allegations, that she was angry about being disciplined, that this was revenge. But the jury didn't believe it because the evidence was overwhelming. The timeline was consistent. The behavioral changes were documented. The psychological impact was real. In March 2021, Isabella Martinez was found guilty on all accounts. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison, no possibility of parole for at least 15. When the verdict was read, Denise didn't cry, she didn't smile, she didn't react. She just sat there feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Relief, not happiness, not closure, just relief, because the truth was finally out, because someone had been held accountable, because she had survived. Wow, she's a survivor. This case didn't just affect Denise and Isabella, it affected everyone around them. Marcus Johnson struggled with guilt. He blamed himself for not seeing the signs, for working night shifts, for trusting Isabella, for failing to protect his daughter. He went to therapy. He tried to rebuild his relationship with Denise, but the damage was deep. The truth was broken. It took years before they could sit in the same room without tension, without pain, without the weight of everything that had happened. Denise's friends felt betrayed too, but they had seen the Instagram post. Okay. Denise's friends felt betrayed too because they had seen the Instagram post. They had believed the smile. They had thought Denise was happy. And when the truth came out, they questioned everything. Why didn't she tell us? Why didn't she ask for help? Why did she lie? But Denise didn't lie. She survived. And survival sometimes looks like pretending, like smiling when you are dying inside, like posting pictures that doesn't match your reality. Because showing the world your pain feels more dangerous than hiding it. The school counselor who first reported the case carried her own burden. She wondered if she should have pushed harder, asked more direct questions, filed a report sooner, but she followed protocol. She did what she was trained to do, and ultimately, her actions saved Denise's life. Teachers who had Denise in class looked back at her attendance records, at behavioral notes, at the gradual decline, and they realized they had missed it. They had seen a struggling student, but they hadn't seen a victim. This is the insidious nature of family abuse. It hides in plain sight. It disguises itself as normal family dynamics, as typical teenage rebellion, as nothing more than growing pains. And by the time the truth surfaces, the damage is already done. So tell me, what do you learn from this? If a survivor watching this, how did you speak up? Have you spoken up? Who did you tell? How were you able to escape that trauma? Tell us in the comments. Someone, just maybe someone out there needs to read your comments and get that courage to finally speak up. Because if you speak up as a survivor, you are not just saving yourself, you are saving others. Because those predators, if they go scot-free, trust me, they may have the audacity to do it to someone else, right? So you should be the one to end it. Thanks for watching to this point. If you actually watched to this point, thank you. Right? You need to subscribe. You cannot watch to this point and not subscribe. You have to help this channel grow, right? And we are counting on you. Watch out for the next story. It's coming up. We're going to be talking on this family betrayal series back to back. See you on the next one. God bless.